My passion always has been, since I started really, not so much when I was a cadet, but once I became a student nurse, I've always been intrigued in expert practice. Not just in nursing, in any field, in medicine, nursing, and allied health. And I used to be very conscious when I worked as a student or when I was qualified. I used to be conscious of people that were really good at what they did, and I was always interested to see what it was about them that made their practice, really fluent practice, where they could relate to people and be communicative, but at the same time be really skilled with what they were doing at the same time. That combination. And I don't think that many nurses and doctors don't have that, but some do, and that always interested me. So I've always been interested in practice as a process. So I knew I had to do something that you could actually see would impact on patient care. And that was when I thought, well, what about trying to change practice in line with the best available evidence? Part of the strategic thinking was, evidence-based healthcare is not limited to a single discipline. And if you produce guidelines for nurses, nurses don't make decisions on their own, just the same as doctors don't. So we just became the Joanna Briggs Institute, full stop. And I think that was in 2000. Well, I was trying to provide a resource to the Royal Adelaide in return for the funding that would help them to improve the quality and safety of care by getting the best evidence into action. So I knew that what we had to do was we had to look at all the practices that were occurring, try and develop guidance, try and get systems to help people implement that guidance, and try to evaluate if it's having an impact. And I knew we would never be able to do that as a little team here in Adelaide. So right from the beginning, I knew we would have to have some kind of a collaboration. Well, the work is enormous. So no single group could do the work that JBI does. I mean, JBI can do the content development here in Adelaide for the online services that are offered through Ovid, but the science, the methodological development, the conduct of reviews has to be a global enterprise. It has to be multidisciplinary. It has to be multicultural, and it requires a lot of work and time and energy. So you couldn't have achieved, JBI couldn't have achieved what it's achieved without that global collaboration. And it is a phenomenal collaboration. What I had in my head when we set up JBI, I think we achieved everything that I thought we should. But there's a second half to that. It's still not the answer. We still haven't come up with a system that does get people to use the best available evidence in practice, or that gets governments to make policies that's based on the best. We still haven't got that. I mean, it's amazing the amount of work that JBI has done and its visibility around the world and the way it influences outcomes. Particularly, the most important thing is in the developing world, because not a lot of organisations do as much work in the developing world as JBI does. Moving to the university, the HDR program, the contract with Walters Clore and Ovid, they were all big organisational steps. But I think, I think the biggest highlight would be just to look at the team in JBI. A lot of the people in the JBI team joined that team as very young, inexperienced and naive people, to be honest. And when you look at it now, all the leaders actually started off as research assistants. They started off as research assistants. They're now associate professors, senior lecturers. They're leading research programs, very confident people. So life is pretty good now. But it's still nice to just keep an eye on what this lot are doing. I just keep an eye to make sure they don't make too many mistakes.